There is an ocean of everything you want: success, power, and the most satisfying relationships. It's all available and waiting for you. This is The Zone of Action with your host, Gerald Action Jackson.
Today, the subject of this podcast is Prune the Poison. Prune the Poison, how letting go of toxic relationships opens the door to success. While I was dating the incredible woman who would later become my wife, I was also deeply involved in building something I was proud of, a consulting coaching business called Infinite Blue Ocean. It wasn't just a business. It was a mission, a calling, a purpose. We were in the business of helping people transform their lives and reach their next level of success financially, emotionally, and professionally. Sometimes that transformation required difficult conversations, and I remember one Saturday session very clearly. It wasn't just because of what I said to a client, but because of the look on my now wife's face when I said it. We were in our home, and I had a one-on-one Zoom coaching call with a client, an ambitious, hardworking man with real potential. But he was stuck. No matter how many strategic plans we put together, no matter how many productivity techniques I showed him, he just wasn't moving forward. Every win was short-lived. Every gain was followed by an emotional setback. And the common thread, his fiance. She wasn't just indifferent to his growth. She was actively resisting it. A quarrelsome, controlling partner who constantly criticized his goals, downplayed his dreams, and picked fights every time he made progress. She was what I call a high interference factor, a brick wall in human form. So on that Saturday, I told him plainly, you need to end this relationship. My now wife was sitting nearby, and when I looked up, she had a look of absolute horror on her face. To her, I had just overstepped. We were still dating at the time, and I understood why she reacted that way. On the surface, it sounded cold, harsh, even brutal. But what she didn't realize at that moment is that sometimes the cost of keeping someone in your life is too high to ignore. The hard truth: relationships can make or break your success. Now, I want to make something clear. I'm not a relationship counselor. I don't pretend to be. I don't hand out love advice or tell people how to handle every situation with their spouse or significant other. But here's what I do know as a success coach, entrepreneur, and someone who's helped hundreds of people step into their greatness. If someone in your life is a consistent, unyielding, and emotionally draining roadblock, they have to go. That's not an opinion. That's a law of growth. If a person constantly pulls you away from your goals, creates chaos when you try to pursue purpose, and undermines your confidence every step of the way, they are not your partner in success. They are your silent saboteur. You cannot grow in a garden full of weeds. And to my wife's credit, after I calmly explained it to her, she came around and completely understood my point. What looked like a reckless suggestion was actually a life-saving intervention. You have to date with a purpose. Later, I gave a speech where I shared this story, and I said something I firmly believe. I am not a relationship expert, but I am an expert in results. And if your relationship is keeping you from getting the results you want, it's time to reassess everything. We live in a culture where people date to pass time instead of dating with a purpose. It's fine if you want to play around, but if you're building a business, chasing a dream, and working on your best self, you don't have time to waste. If your end goal is a marriage that nurtures your growth, not stifles it, then every dating decision you make should reflect that. If someone shows signs early on of being unsupportive, negative, or antagonistic to your goals, that's not a partner. That's a project. And you can't afford to be in fixer-upper relationships when you're trying to build a mansion of success. Energy is everything. Toxic relationships aren't just annoying. They're expensive. They cost you peace, time, focus, and energy. Think about it. How many hours have you spent arguing instead of planning? How many mornings have you started your day stressed instead of focused? How many dreams have been delayed because you were emotionally drained by someone who didn't believe in them? You can't afford that kind of overhead. Here's what emotional toxicity does to your success. It slows your decision making. You doubt yourself more often. It clouds your vision. You stop seeing the future because you're busy surviving the present. It lowers your self-worth. You begin to internalize the negativity and believe you're not capable of more. It isolates you from help. Toxic people often discourage outside support, which keeps you stuck in a vacuum. And when you operate from a place of depletion instead of power, you can't show up at 100%. Not for your business, your clients, your team, or your dreams. The client who took the leap back to that Saturday. The client I spoke with took my advice. It took him a few weeks to fully cut ties, and the process wasn't easy. There were emotional moments, doubts, second thoughts, but today, he lives just outside of San Diego. He's happily married to someone who believes in him and builds with him. And his business, it didn't just take off. It skyrocketed. His net worth is now 14 times his previous salary. Yes, that's right. And I guarantee you, none of that would have happened if he had stayed stuck in a cycle of emotional sabotage with someone who didn't believe in the mission. Let me put it simply. You cannot build an empire with someone who is constantly trying to burn your blueprints. Pruning is not punishment. It's preparation ending. Toxic relationships is one of the hardest, but most liberating things you will ever do. When you prune a tree, you cut off the dead and diseased branches, not to harm the tree, but to help it thrive. The same principle applies to life. Pruning isn't about being mean or cold. It's about creating space for peace, for productivity, for power. And the biggest lie we tell ourselves is this: maybe it'll get better. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. But what if your destiny is waiting on the other side of that toxic tie? What if everything you've been working for is just a decision away? The world has enough obstacles. Your inner circle shouldn't be one of them. What you can do today. Here are 5 action steps you can take right now if you're feeling stuck in a toxic or draining relationship. Assess the impact. Ask yourself, is this relationship fueling me or draining me? Write it out. Be honest. Speak your truth. Communicate your needs clearly. If they can't respect your growth, that's your answer. Set boundaries. Even if you're not ready to leave, start protecting your time and energy like your success depends on it, because it does. Visualize life without the chaos. Seriously, close your eyes and picture a version of you that's fully supported and free from emotional sabotage. Make the tough call. If you already know the relationship is toxic, stop delaying the inevitable. Your dreams are worth more than another round of toxic drama. Final thoughts. Choose success and peace. I'm not telling you to give up on love. I'm telling you to choose love that lifts you. I'm not telling you to end every relationship when things get tough. I'm telling you to have the courage to walk away from the ones that make you weaker, not stronger. Because you can have both. Love and legacy, connection and clarity, companionship and conviction. But you'll never get there if you're too scared to prune the branches that are blocking the sunlight. So to the dreamers, the builders, and the believers out there, ask yourself this: what or who in your life is standing in the way of your next level, then do the brave thing. Let it go. Because the life you want is waiting. And so is the peace you deserve. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter, JeroldDjax. On Facebook, Gerald Action Jackson and Zone of Action. Check out the website, GeraldJackson.com. Happiness starts with you, not with your relationship, not with your job, not with your money, but with you in the zone of action.